What is up, guys? Lord Nick here, bringing you another One Piece related video. This video, guys, we're going over the deck list that I will be using in a case tournament. We have a case tournament coming up on Saturday, and I also kind of wanted to share with you guys this epic poster that I got from my cousin for Christmas. Let's see if I can get it to show in the camera well. Woohoo! Wano Country. It's pretty dope. I like it. It was dope. Thought you guys might like that. So, it hasn't been hung up yet. I gotta figure that out here in a bit. Also gotta do some laundry. Hopefully that doesn't show up in the back too badly. But until then, let's kind of go over, guys. Let's go over what I've done. What have I changed? What have I gone back to? Stuff like that. So, there are a lot of adaptations that I've been doing since I've taken my break. I've been playing a lot of in-person One Piece, but I've just been tired through the holidays, the move, and everything. We are now located in San Antonio for anybody that cares, anybody that wants to know. We are no longer in the Austin scene, so I have to get accustomed to the scene down here, though the scene down here seems to be a lot of Shanks. Not too many people riding the Pluffy, and there's only one guy that's still stuck to Lucci. There's a couple of dudes trying out Blackbeard, but a lot of them are jumping off of it because they think it's bad. I don't think the deck is bad. I just think that the deck is different and hard to play, and so because of that, it's just one of those, like, it feels bad out the gates because it just doesn't do what you expect the deck to do, which is shut down every opponent. So with that in mind, I did want to shift our build a little bit, because I do expect that at this case tournament there will be more Dofis than I'm used to seeing. And Dofi being a bad matchup, I do want it to, like, it's not necessarily okay. I just stop that one. It's not a bad matchup, but it is a hard matchup if I don't see the proper cards. So I'm tooling the deck to be built more towards dealing with Dofi. There are some tweaks and changes we could make, but I think that these ones kind of help us also in the mid to late game against other decks as well. It makes it easier for us to just be able to slam down a Kuzan and the next turn follow it up with defense, opposed to having to see Aramaki on curve. So let's kind of go into that. So we do have the Scarlets. I wanted her at 4. I couldn't find my 4th copy, so we did 3 of her, 3 Suleiman. Otherwise it would be 4-2. I'd probably still recommend the 4-2. So the reasoning behind having the Scarlets is it's just a good setup card. You have it early. If you can play it on your first turn, great. If not, then your second turn, it's actually still a very viable option to play. Just due to the fact that with Scarlet, there's some really cool play lines that we can get off. One of those is on turn 2, you can play Scarlet, play out one of the Suleimans into an Ama no Murakumo, which allows us to remove one of the 4 drops that was just played by a Dofi, plus get rid of the Teach to the bottom with both of them, and that can significantly slow down the Dofi's game plan. And then the only thing that's left on board is a 4K body, but if he wants to swing a 5 into it, we then just got the protection out of him like he was in our hand as a 1K. So, you know, he's done his job at removing something, and it's bought us some time, which is the biggest thing about this deck, is if we can buy time in the first couple of turns, so that by the time we're dropping the Aramaki into the Kuzan, we just kind of win the game. Now note... Sorry for the cough. It is back and bad. But anyhow, there is one other tech option that you can do here, just due to the fact that we have cut down the Aramakis. We could go down 1 Sabo and up another Aramaki. 2 to 3 Sabos hasn't made a huge difference in the numbers of them. When I was playing 4 Sabos, it did feel good into a couple of matchups like Shanks. It made the Shanks a bit more reliable because this card becomes super annoying for Shanks to deal with. Because if we establish our top end and he doesn't have the curve on the immediate turn to answer it, the following turns just having the Sabo cycle with Rebecca is really annoying for them to deal with, because we're putting out enough blockers to deal with his stuff. We're probably still at 1 life, and now he can't actually even try to KO these 2 top end cards, which is the cards that are the most devastating for him to have to deal with. But what we've kind of done instead was I wanted to make sure my early game was a little bit more shored up. So my top end is a little less consistent. There is another option if we drop one of the Amas, go up an Aramaki. That is the route I'm kind of leaning at the moment. But just because I wanted to prep for the Dophies, I'm putting it as like, if I fully prepped expecting majority Dophi, this is kind of the route I'd go. If I think it's more Shanks, we drop an Ama, we toss up an Aramaki. Sabo could also be the option if I would just kind of wanted to split the difference, but what that does is it does put us up to, I believe, 22 no counters in the deck. So if we're at that high of no counter, then we're in a situation where, you know, one misplay can actually cost us the game because we just don't have enough counter to dig ourselves out of it. And because I've dropped something like the, what's his name, the Stainlesses, who are helping us get some of the no counters out of our hand so we can use leader ability more often, this situation would not be as fixable as that. So there is an argument to which way we do it, but the biggest thing about the Amas is the Ama no Murakumo swords. The biggest thing about this one is that it is a 2-drop, so even if, you know, it can't get rid of a lot of things, we have so much cost reduction that this card will almost never be stuck in our hand. It may not get its full effect, it may not be perfect for us, but the fact that it can almost always at least get rid of a 4-drop for us is basically the curve we need it to be able to answer. And if we manage to get to late game with the Kuzan, this becomes pretty much a Gravity Blade for 2, which is pretty devastating, to say the least. Yes, it means that this card doesn't help us answer Jack, but there's almost no Jacks in the meta anyways. And the few decks that do run Jack, which would be Blackbeard and Lucci, we're already kind of suited to beat Blackbeard in most cases. As for the Lucci, we kind of just demolish him. So, you know, with the Blackbeard situation, like, yeah, it can be a little bit rough if they're running the Jacks and they see the Jacks, but our options versus that would just be to try to stick a body and then swing big body into the Jack and force multiple cards out of his hand. Less cards he has in his hand, less likely it is that Blackbeard's going to be able to do anything about us answering it. But, so we're kind of teching, but I don't also expect that much Blackbeard specifically for the tournament that I'm teching for. So because of that, we're not teching with Blackbeard necessarily in mind, which is why the Stainlesses have come out. I was testing with the Nightmare Luffy. I actually think Nightmare Luffy works really well with our deck when we are not running the Scarlet Suleiman package, and that's because majority of the cards that I use that replace those are, and we're not running Amos as well usually in that package. So majority of the cards that are in those slots are generally 4-drops and up. Be it more copies of an extra copy of Sabo, or the fact that we're tossing in Stainlesses and Nightmare Luffy's, and usually an extra Aramaki. So at that point, then it's just like, oh wow, now we have tons of removal. Not so much on the reduction side, but our removal is a lot more bigger bodies. And so because of that, then any of them that end up in trash become targets of Nightmare Luffy, and we can just stack them back to the bottom of the deck, or to our 7-drop Luffy can just stack them to the bottom of the deck. So I was also running Cavendishes previously. Cavendish felt like a pretty good all-star, and if we high roll into a low roll Dophi with the Cavendish, it felt great. Problem is in general the Cavendish felt kind of like a card that showed up every now and then and didn't really do what I needed to do most of the time. So instead I'm kind of leaning into this package. Yes, this isn't that consistent of a card, but we already were running basically 4 other Navy cards in that slot. So yeah, it can add some inconsistencies, but because we've cut it down here, we have 4, we have 2, so that's 6, 8, and 11. So we only have 11 non-Dressrosa cards. Our consistency should still be relatively fine. This kind of towards the top end of it. 12 is that magic number I want to stay under at this point. So there is also an argument of dropping down our Kuzan by 1, but if I drop him down by 1, I don't really have another card that I want to slot in that's not already off archetype. So at the moment it's kind of just like, all right, let's stick with the 3-2 split. It worked with us in the past. We're going with a lot of early game, and then we have a lot of reduction. Normally I would follow this up with some gameplay of this to kind of showcase it off. I'm still tired, I'm still sick. I just wanted to get something out there, so I kind of wanted to give you guys an update on what I am prepping for, which is this case tournament. And hopefully I'll have some good results and I can showcase and talk about the matchups that I had and kind of tell you about how this goes. This is most likely the deck list I will go with. Exception would be the fact that if I drop an Ama no Murakumo, I would put in the Aramaki, or you might see me with 4 Sabos. You know, there would be small variation tweaks to this, if anything, prior to that to the tournament, but this is roughly the list I'll be having for that tournament, and hopefully I can come back with good results. And until then, I hope you guys have had great holidays and continue to have some into the new year. And until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye, guys.